I have to say, I have been here for 4 years in the Senate. I have never seen a witness stonewall like this before. Never. And I've seen a lot. This is extraordinary. Do you remember this post? December 3rd, 2021.
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
I mean, this is unbelievable. And you want to be the archivist of the United States. You lied to us under oath. You lied to us in your QFRs. You just lied to me a second ago under oath, and now you're sitting here stonewalling, not answering questions about public posts that you've made. Are you a lawyer, Ms. Shogan?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, patriots, to America First, the channel that puts our nation above the radical agenda, where we expose the truth that the mainstream media deliberately hides from you. If you're new here, make sure to hit that like button and smash that subscribe button. Ring the bell so you never miss the truth coming from patriots who still believe in the Constitution, in liberty, in law and order, and in holding government accountable. And if you really want to help us stay independent, if you want to help us keep fighting back against the DC swamp, big tech censorship, and media gaslighting, head over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/AmericaFirst for as little as $5 a month. Now let's dive into one of the most jaw-dropping hearings we've seen in recent memory. What happened in the United States Senate was nothing short of stunning. We're talking about the confirmation hearing of Dr. Shogan, Joe Biden's nominee for Archivist of the United States. Yes, the person tasked with overseeing the National Archives, the permanent custodian of our nation's most important records. You'd think that someone nominated for such a role would be impartial, trustworthy, and honest. But instead, what we saw was a partisan operative who misled Congress, dodged questions, and completely disrespected the confirmation process. And guess what? She did it all under oath.
So, is your post on February 18th, 2022, bemoaning the lifting of mask requirements for children under the age of 5, who I might just ask, all of the data has said is extremely harmful to children, these mask requirements? We'll leave that aside for now. Is that a post about your dog or sports teams? Yes or no?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
Yes or no, Ms. Shogan? You are under oath before this committee, and I have to say, you have placed this issue squarely in record by repeatedly refusing to answer. Yes or no?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
So you're not answering my question. Let's talk about another post. 26th of May, 2022. You talk about an assault weapons ban, retweet a post, ban assault weapons now. Say you agree with this idea that you have to be a certain age to buy so-called assault weapons in America. Is that a post about sports teams or your dog or mystery novels?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
What about the post on January 5th of 2021 in which you say that Ted Cruz ought to stay in his own lane and not worry about what's going on in Pittsburgh? This is a reference, I think, to questions he had about the certification of the last election. Is that a post about your dog or sports teams or mystery novels?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
What about the post, you remember December 10th, 2020, where you said that you were hoping that President Trump would have his vetoes overridden, and you agreed with the post that he was a weak policy president? Is that a post about your dog or sports teams or mystery novels?
My social media is in my personal capacity.
What about your post on January 5th, 2021, in which you speculated that President Trump would pardon himself next, participating in a conversation about the certification of the Electoral College? Is that a post about sports teams or mystery novels or your work at the White House Historical Association?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
What about the post? Do you remember this one? I said we seem to be having an incredible case of amnesia, but maybe you remember this one. This is from December 3rd of 2021, in which you advise an individual who goes by Meg on social media that the Library of Congress, you advise this person to complain about religious flags that have been planted on the grounds of the Library of Congress, and you say that they ought to be removed. And you go on to give this person advice about how to complain and have them removed. Do you remember that post?
My social media is in my personal capacity.
Do you remember the post?
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
I have to say, I have been here for 4 years in the Senate. I have never seen a witness stonewall like this before. Never. And I've seen a lot. This is extraordinary. Do you remember this post? December 3rd, 2021.
My social media is in my personal capacity, Senator.
I mean, this is unbelievable. And you want to be the archivist of the United States. You lied to us under oath. You lied to us in your QFRs. You just lied to me a second ago under oath. And now you're sitting here stonewalling, not answering questions about public posts that you've made. Are you a lawyer, Ms. Shogan?
No, Senator.
Are you familiar with the Shirtliff case at the United States Supreme Court?
No, Senator, I'm not.
Well, in that case, the Supreme Court held that, in fact, it constitutes viewpoint discrimination for a government entity to remove religious flags from its property when it's opened up the property to allow other people to put flags on it. Exactly the question that you were addressing in your public posts on Twitter. You're giving legal advice, which you're not qualified to give, directly contrary to the United States Supreme Court. I just wonder, does this have to do with your view that you wrote about that the religious right is connected to the rise of anti-intellectualism in American politics? Is that why you said what you said about religious flags, that the religious right is a force for anti-intellectualism? Explain that to me.
No, Senator.
Do you stand by your comment that the religious right is part of the rise of anti-intellectualism in American politics?
Senator, that article was written. It was about how Republican presidents use common sense terminology to effectively communicate with Americans.
Yeah, in which you said that the religious right, the rise of the religious right is part of the rise of anti-intellectualism in American politics. I just point out that's the article in which you say anti-intellectual, the title is Anti-Intellectualism in the Modern Presidency, Republican Populism. Very nonpartisan. Dr. Shogan, I'm going to ask you again, will you give to this committee your public posts on Twitter? Will you make them available to this
My social media is in my personal capacity.
Mr. Chairman, I have to tell you, this is the most extraordinary thing I have seen in my brief time in the Senate. I have never seen a witness blatantly lie under oath like Dr. Shogan has just done to this committee, stonewalled this committee, and just repeatedly refused to answer my questions about her own posts that are in public. For these reasons, I will oppose your nomination, and I strongly, strongly urge this committee to take action on this and force this witness to own up to the fact that she is misleading us right now before our eyes, Mr. Chairman.
Let me break this down for you, patriots, because the media is not going to give you the full story. This all started when Dr. Shogan was asked, during her previous appearance, to account for the content of her Twitter feed. Now keep in mind, her Twitter account used to be public. But just before her Senate confirmation hearing, she locked it down. She made it private. Now, why would someone do that? Why would someone applying for a federal appointment suddenly hide their public record? Well, when pressed about it by several senators, including Senator Josh Hawley, Dr. Shogan claimed that her Twitter account was harmless. She said it contained posts about mystery novels, Pittsburgh sports teams, travel, the White House Historical Association, and her dog. Sounds cute, right? But here's the problem. That statement was a lie. Senator Hawley came prepared. He pulled up real tweets from her now private account that were anything but cute and cuddly. These were not tweets about her golden retriever or a Steelers game. These were deeply partisan, ideologically loaded, and in some cases, legally questionable public statements. Let's start with one tweet from February 18, 2022. Dr. Shogan lamented the fact that mask mandates were being lifted for children under 5. She was upset that kids, including toddlers, weren't being forced to wear face masks anymore. Now pause right there. By that time, the science was clear. Masks on toddlers were not just ineffective, they were potentially harmful. But Dr. Shogan didn't care about that. She was upset about the mandates going away. That's not public health policy, that's ideological hysteria. Next, on May 26, 2022, she retweeted a call to ban so-called assault weapons, endorsing legislation to strip Americans of their Second Amendment rights. Remember, this is someone who wants to be the nation's official records keeper, not a gun control activist. And yet here she was, taking public stances on one of the most divisive constitutional issues in America. Then there's a post from January 5, 2021, just before the Electoral College certification. She tweeted that Senator Ted Cruz should stay in his own lane and stop questioning election integrity. Again, this is a neutral commentary. This is mocking a sitting U.S. Senator for doing his job, asking questions about an election that tens of millions of Americans had concerns about. She wasn't just offering a political opinion, she was attacking the very idea that the process should be scrutinized. It gets worse. On December 10th, 2020, she posted support for overriding then-President Trump's veto and endorsed a post calling him a weak policy president. Is that her dog talking? Or was that her opinion, as a government official, about the commander-in-chief? Either way, it directly contradicts what she told the Senate, that her Twitter account wasn't political. But here's the real kicker, folks. On December 3rd, 2021, she advised someone on social media to file a complaint to have religious flags removed from government property, specifically the grounds of the Library of Congress. That's right. She gave unsolicited legal advice to try and ban religious expression in the public square. Never mind the Supreme Court ruling, Shurtleff versus Boston, which ruled that removing religious flags from open forums constitutes viewpoint discrimination. Dr. Shogan didn't care about the Constitution. She saw a Christian flag and wanted it taken down. And when asked about this, what did she say? Over and over again, my social media is in my personal capacity. But that's not the issue. The issue is that she lied about the nature of her posts. She misled the committee under oath. She claimed they were about books and dogs and sports when they were in fact about politics, policy, religion, and Trump bashing. And when confronted, she refused to answer basic yes or no questions. That's not just evasive, that's stonewalling. That's disrespecting the Senate, and it's disrespecting you, the American people. Senator Hawley, to his credit, did not let her off the hook. He repeatedly asked her to clarify. He pointed to specific dates, specific tweets, and asked whether they were about her dog. She refused to answer, and then she admitted that she's not a lawyer. Yet she was giving legal advice to people on Twitter, advice that contradicts Supreme Court precedent. So let's recap here. We have a nominee for a critical federal role who lied to Congress under oath, refused to hand over public social media, posts mocked religious Americans, attacked the Second Amendment, endorsed masking toddlers, smeared a sitting U.S. Senator, undermined President Trump while serving in his administration, and showed total contempt for the confirmation process. That's who Joe Biden wants overseeing the National Archives. Do you feel comfortable with someone like that in charge of our government's records? The same archives that recently targeted Trump over documents while giving Biden a pass? Now we know why. The bureaucracy is packed with partisans like Shogan, people who pretend to be neutral but are pushing an agenda from the inside. This is why elections matter. This is why who controls the Senate matters. Because if we let these kinds of people run our institutions, we lose our republic one brick at a time. So I'll say it again, America deserves better. Our government institutions should be run by people who respect the law, who tell the truth, and who don't weaponize their positions to punish political opponents. If you agree, then stand with us. Share this video. Leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel. If you want to do more, support us on patreon.com/AmericaFirst. For just $5 a month, you can help us fight back against the lies, the censorship, and the decay of our government. This is America First, and we're not backing down. Thanks for watching. Stay strong, stay patriotic, and never stop demanding the truth.